Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go through a new collaboration deck, a collab deck from set 13, and that is Mushiking, one of the most impactful collabs since Monster Strike, and this is one of the collabs that got ported to English. A very good way for you to, I guess, get into the metagame straight away with very little commitment and pretty much very little cards to kind of search out from your old piles and just construct a deck to play at your local tournament, play at your BCS Worlds, or even get ready for the next season for Bushiroad Springfest. If you guys need any coaching, my Metafy is in the bottom right hand corner. Also in the description, feel free to book a session and we can get started. If you guys haven't done it already, click that subscribe button for all notifications on this video. So I thought I'd put in some Christmas cheer. Christmas is coming up soon, so happy holidays to everybody. So we're going to go through the deck. For those of you guys who want to know the deck code, it is APXA. I will also put it in the description as well. Just gonna go through, I guess, a standardized list. Big shout out to Chu Hung, one of my Malaysian brothers. He pretty much played a whole 1.5 seasons or something like that with Mushiking, has gotten first in Swiss multiple times. This deck is actually very, very strong. And in the simulation, once we do it towards the end, I'll just kind of show you why this deck is strong in comparison to a lot of other decks in the standard metagame at the moment. So starting off, we have this grade 3, Tyrannus Stag Beetle. So notice how all the Mushiking cards are all vanilla. All of these are vanilla, but the real important bits that you want to, I guess, take note of is the attack icon, the finishing move, which the super finishing attack, which is in this case machine gun punches, as well as the skill level, because each of these will be requirements for your set order cards. So we'll just go through all the vanillas. Don't really need to explain much other than probably the 3 categories that I've just gone through. So Tyrannus Stag Beetle, notice how it's hitting, the super finishing attack is machine gun punches, and the skill level is 30. Then the second part of the ride line, Neptune Beetle, and the icon is throwing, side screw throw is the finishing attack, and the skill is 60. The 60 in the skill for the grade 2 actually matters because of the set order. But yeah, we can go through that in just a sec. Then we have Flat Stag Beetle, which is pinching with Kingfisher Hug as the super finishing attack and the skill as 90. Then the starter is a starter. Notice that this starter does not draw 1 going second. Do not be that guy and costing you a game if you drew going second. Alright, if you go second, you don't draw. Alright, big alarm right here for you guys who play Mushiking. Then I guess the other vanillas that we run. So we run Parry Stag Beetle. We run 3 copies of this. This one has pinching with rolling clutch hold, which is one of the set orders that we do run in this deck, and then the skill level is 60. Then Japanese Beetle, this is probably one of the most impactful cards in the deck because of the throwing icon as well as Tornado Throw, again one of our set orders that we run in the deck, and then the skill is 90 to fulfill the cost for Super Tornado Throw once we get to it. And those are pretty much the vanillas that you play in your deck, and then now we go into like the Stoicheia cards, but I think it's really important to kind of talk about these set orders first. So the first set order that we run is this grade 3 called Machine Gun Punches, and notice how each of these points, right, dictate certain skill level, certain finishing attack, and then super finishing attack, right? Finishing attack is like hitting, the rock, paper, or scissors. And then the third one is obviously the finishing for the super finishing attack, right? So for this, the skill level requirement is 20, which will meet the Tyrannus Stag Beetle. Tyrannus Stag Beetle's skill level, I think, is 40, if I'm not mistaken. 30. So that will fulfill that cost, so which is higher than 20. So the attacking unit, so it will be essentially 18k. And then the finishing attack is hitting, again, the attacking unit gains +5 again. So you're actually attacking for 23k. And then the finishing attack, the super finishing attack is Machine Gun Punches, which is the super finishing attack of Tyrannus Stag Beetle. At the end of the battle that this attack was used, can lost 1 stand the unit that attacked Until end of turn, it gets -2 drive. Then you can discard a copy of this from your hand and it gains +1 drive. So essentially you're attacking for 2 drives and 1 drive. So similar to like an Overlord deck, but this deck is not restricted on, I guess, ditching anything, which is really good because all the cards that you drive check, you get to keep, right? So we play 4 copies of those. That is your main, I guess, order that you kind of want to focus around because it's Vanguard oriented. Then the next one we run up one of, which is Rolling Clutch Hold. So the skill 50 or greater, so pretty much you can just think of the first 2 skills as they give +5/+5. So skill level requirement is 50, and then the finishing attack is pinching. Then super finishing attack is Rolling Clutch Hold. You can Soul Blast 1 and perform this particular red text effect. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards. That unit cannot stand at the end of, well, at the next opponent's stand phase and cannot intercept until the end of turn. This is really good because then you can combo with your parry stand beetle on the rear guard, Soul Blast 1, stop and intercept, and maybe that unit is like a Shadow Army token, and that means that that column essentially loses 15k worth of power. Very, very strong, especially in this current metagame where Orphus Mask is a big deal. Maybe not so much with like Youthberg and Leonor, maybe Jejuled is pretty good too, just to stop some of those, you know, Rockagores or I don't know, some of the other rear guards that they run, right? You only play a one-off because your crest actually gets one of each of these and sets them straight away once you ride up to your grade 1. So hence why we only play 1 copy. Then the last one is Super Tornado Throw, which we play as a 4 of. You can actually run this at 3 if you like, but I think that the power in this order is like ridiculous, right? So the skill is 80 or greater, gains +5. If the finishing attack is throwing, gains +5 again. So automatically your Japanese Beetle will hit for 18k on a rear guard. That is ridiculous, right? And that is what makes this deck really strong. Because your rear guards hit for truck, it means that you rush super early and yeah, like your opponent literally can't do anything about it, which is actually pretty cracked, right? And then the super finishing attack is Tornado Throw. So essentially the attacking unit gains +5, so Japanese Beetle becomes 23k without anything. So by itself is a 23k rear guard, and that is ridiculous, right? Especially on grade 1. Try guarding 23k when you're on an 8k base, that's 20k shield. That means that rear guard is automatically going to be no guarded in the first turn. That is nuts, right? Following that, then you can have +2 and discard a copy of this Super Tornado Throw, and until the end of battle, the attacking unit performs drive check. So you get 1 drive check on rear guard by substituting this 1 card from your hand for the cost of CV2 and discarding the order. Absolutely crazy, and I think this order in itself is what makes Mushiking ridiculous in combination with Japanese Beetle. Because Japanese Beetle, when you place it on a rear guard, is 23k. In the early game, your opponent can't deal with it. Like, how the hell are you guarding 23k when you're in 8k base? That it's just not on, right? Now, the reason why we run Burrow Mushroom is to reinforce that style of gameplay, right? You're already having a card that is practically impossible to guard on a rear guard as a 23k. This substitutes as 2 tokens, which means that you essentially get 2 5k boosters, making that rear guard 28. Now try guarding 28 on a 10k base. That's 20k shield. Like, this is prior to you being on grade 3, so you turn off all your opponent's front triggers, right? So unless your opponent hits defensive, then that's the only way that they're guarding with a 1 card guard. Otherwise, they're pretty much no guarding all your rear guards, and they literally can't do anything about it, right? Sure, they might have like retiring units, but if you have another copy of Japanese Beetle, you just place it down, Burrow Mushroom, call it a day, right? The good thing about Burrow Mushroom as well is that because it creates a token behind your Vanguard, right? Your Vanguard is 15k. That's already a really annoying number to guard, right? So the fact that you have all this is pretty ridiculous, right? So if you think about it, right? 25k on a 10k is pretty bonkers too. Because what you can do is that you can ride this, right? You still get the +10 from Super Tornado Throw because it's a throwing, right? So what you do is you place Parry Stag Beetle on the rear guard as a pinching, and then you use pinching to essentially use this attack, the rolling clutch hold, to get plus 10k, right? That is a 20k attacker. You put Burrow Mushroom and create 2 tokens behind those units, your opponent is guarding 25k and 25k on a rear guard, and then your middle column is also 25k on a 10k base. Your opponent can't 15 guard that. You hit a crit, that's it. Like, the tempo of the game is just gone. Like, your opponent literally can't do anything, right? So, which is why we play Burrow Mushroom. Burrow Mushroom is a very, very good inclusion in this deck, and to be honest, if you really want to amp up Burrow Mushroom, you can probably take out one of these orders, but I'll explain why this order is very, very important as well. As per normal, we play 3 PGs, 1 Elementaria, and we do play the Zorg order, so gather upon me, you wandering souls. So essentially, you discard an order card from your hand, your Vanguard gains +1 drive, right? Why is this important? Is because your Vanguard gains a reset, right? So essentially, you're hitting for 3 drives, 2 drives, instead of 2 drives, 1 drive. So you're making the most out of this order. This order automatically gets you +2. Sure, you ditch one of your orders. Maybe you have like a bunch of orders in your hand. Maybe you have like multiple of these. Maybe you've drawn multiple of these. It's a good way to kind of empty your hand, substitute those order cards into something that you can use to guard. Try, guarding triple drive into a twin drive. It's actually pretty ridiculous. You start putting all your power on your rear guards. Your rear guards are already ridiculous. And it's even worse because you have such a strong early game. Your opponent's already at high damage. Your opponent hasn't had the time to kind of set and kind of farmed up resources, right? Now they have to deal with a triple drive, twin drive with no restrictions at all on a grade 3 turn. Imagine if you're going first, you're slamming your opponent actually can't do anything, right? Then the triggers, so we play 8 crits, 4 heal, 3 draw, 1 Stoicheia OT. I think Stoicheia, the OT in this deck is like pretty ridiculous. The fact that if you are behind in any way, you just hit the Stoicheia OT off 5 checks, 6 checks if you're checking on rearguard as well, and you just immediately come back straight into the game. Plus 10 to the front row is actually really welcoming as well, because you're already attacking so aggressively in the early game that the plus 10k might actually just kill your opponent, right? I guess other considerations would be, why wouldn't you play fronts then? It's because crits in the early game actually is ridiculous, especially with high numbers like 25, 28k. Those numbers are ridiculous, and if you hit a crit and it goes through and it sticks, like the tempo of the whole game is just in your favor. And I think that's like one of the talking points that a lot of the other content creators have also said as well. Sometimes in standard it's very trigger heavy. You just flip a bunch of triggers, call it a day, right? And then that's pretty much the deck in a nutshell. So I guess for those who kind of can't see the can't see the little order at the bottom there, I'll just turn off my webcam real quick. Yeah, so as you can see, the Super Tornado Throw in the bottom right hand corner, it's a grade 1. So feel free to search that. Otherwise, just search up APXA on Decklog. So I guess we'll talk about some of the alternatives. So the alternative that you could play instead of Burrow Mushroom is Diantha. Diantha also recovers a card that you may have, guarded in the early game. The only problem with Diantha is that it costs a CB, and sometimes CB is like pretty good in this deck, especially because you're using a CB2 for the Super Tornado Throw, and then you're using a CB1 on machine gun punches. That's 3 CB, so pretty much like that is pretty expensive. So if you're adding another card that uses Counterblast, it's going to be quite heavy, right? Luckily, this order is just discarded order, so it's not too bad. But yeah, if you're putting in like another grade 1 that, uses CB, then you might run into resource problems. Other ones you could probably run would be anything that generates a token, and I think that's pretty impactful. just so that if it's a grade 1 token generator, it'd be great. But I think all the token generators in standard are like grade 2 plus, if I'm not mistaken. But even then, you know, you pop a grade 2 token creator, you create a token, put the booster behind, like, I don't know, your parry stag beetle, which is like 25 on a rear guard. That's pretty gross as well. You're attacking 3 lines, and it's, yeah, pretty strong. You can also contemplate to run 4 PGs if you want, if you can't find Elementaria, which is completely fine too. If the meta calls for it, then you might want to run one of the restand heal, because at the moment you're versing, you know, the likes of Bastion, Rockogore in Jejute Ignis, Vivace, Leonor Vivace is a restanding deck as well, so maybe restanding heals are good for the metagame. If you have like other OTs like the blue OT in this deck is not that useful. I think the red OT is much better, especially if you're putting on to a rear guard that can restand. And funnily enough, you know, if somehow you can spare 4 CB for this, you can restand a Japanese Beetle and CB4, discard 2 Super Tornado Throws and go for Twin Drive. That might be a thing, but yeah, it's pretty hard to achieve that. So I think overall, the Stoichea OT is probably the most beneficial. With the rule change, now that we have 50 cards in the main deck, you can probably up the count of Borrow Mushroom to 4, so that's 1 extra card. Parry Stag Beetle as another card, that's 2 cards. And then you can probably slot in 2 more vanillas, maybe vanilla grade 1s, maybe in like pinching. Oh no, maybe not pinching. You would want maybe grade 2, a grade 2 that is throwing, but it's very hard. Like, to be honest, you'd probably be better off adding more Stoichea related cards. So maybe you up Borrow Mushroom by 1, Parry Stag Beetle by 1, and put in 2 Dianthas. 2 Dianthas, fine, you know, it's just another option. If for some reason, you know, they kill your Stag Beetle, Diantha is another copy of Stag, oh sorry, not Stag Beetle, Japanese Beetle. Diantha calls, you know, onto rear guard, copies into a Japanese Beetle. That column in itself is what, 23 plus 8, 31k, which is pretty bonkers, right? So Diantha, a very good deck, a very good card in this particular deck. Cool. So those are, I guess, the different inclusions that you could do for this particular deck. There's probably other different combinations of, you know, scissor, paper, rock that you could play in terms of the orders. But I feel that this is the most relevant competitive framework that I'll work off, and I guess that's kind of like the whole discussion in this particular video. So just going through to CFA, we'll just simulate this game real quick, just kind of seeing what to mulligan and what to not, and just kind of go through the first few turns. So we're just going to shuffle up and draw 5. Now, if you see a rolling clutch hold, you immediately roll it back, because you only run 1 copy. The 1 copy will be found on your crest, and that will pretty much give you everything else for the game. Any triggers you return 2, and then machine gun punches. It's okay to have 1 because you need it on the grade 3 turn, so you want to keep machine gun punches. Mulligan targets would be Japanese Beetle and Parry Stag. Otherwise, you know, Borrow Mushroom is good as well. But generally, like, you want to get 1 machine gun punches in your hand for when you ride to grade 3. So we'll just draw the next 4. This is okay, I guess. 1 Persona Ride, 1 Parry Stag. Parry Stag's alright. We'll just go with that. So we'll shuffle. Let's just say, you know, we're going first. I think going first with this deck is very, very strong. So I'll just kind of imitate how things will roll out if you go first. So let's draw 1. Super Tornado Throw is good. Let's just keep that. So we're going to ditch and I guess ride this grade 1. So I'm just going to create the crest here, ride, and then generate the crest. So the crest skill, automatically, when you get this crest, search your deck for 1 hitting, 1 pinching, 1 throwing of different grades and put them into the order zone and search and shuffle my deck. So the first thing is machine gun punches, and then Super Tornado Throw, which is the grade 1, and then the pinching grade 2. So we'll just put it as grade 1 here, grade 2 here, and then grade 3 here. Cool. Shuffle your deck. So if we were attacking, right, this in itself, you you just copy, well, you actually can't copy, but you can activate certain skills, but you just don't get the full thing. Because this is 90 skill, this will just get +5, right? Off the super tornado throw. So you can, so the Crest's skill is essentially when your Mushi attacks, rest an attack card which is equal or less to your Vanguard's grade, and then use that card's attack, right? Which is why all the Mushiking cards are vanilla. So this would rest the Super Tornado Throw, which is 13. 13 is a very, very annoying number in the early game to guard, and your opponent's probably gonna no guard it, right? You hit a crit, your tempo is immediately in your favor. But we're going first, so it doesn't matter, right? Just know that you cannot copy, well, you cannot attack with rolling clutch hold or machine gun punches until grade 2 and grade 3 respectively. So that's that, and let's just say, you know, your opponents are pretty good, so they're gonna, you know, hit you for 1 damage, cool, and it's our turn, so stand and draw. So this hand is a little bit weird, so you can, I guess, in this particular turn, you're wanting to ride the Neptune Beetle and then copy the Super Tornado Throw, which is 20k, right? Then you also have a Parry Stag, which is also 20k, because you copy the Rolling Clutch Hold, right? So 20 and 20 is actually pretty annoying. So what I'll probably do is I'll discard this, ride this, no on-ride skills for Mushiking, and then call out. Because these are 2020, it's good because then it means that you can attack with your Vanguard first. If you check a crit, you just dump it on the rear guard, and that's 30k. Very, very strong. So we're going to attack with Neptune Beetle. Neptune Beetle will cast the attack of any of my orders equal or less to my Vanguard. So in this case, because it's throwing, what we want to do is we want to set Super Tornado Throw, and because it's skill 80 greater and the finishing attack is throwing, which it is, so the skill is greater than, the skill is not greater than 80, but it will be 15 and 20, sorry. So it will gain +5 because the finishing attack is 20. So this is 15. 15 is a really annoying number for your opponent to guard, right? Because essentially it's a no guard. Like your opponent just can't guard that, right? Especially with one card, unless, you know, they throw out their whole hand, and that means that they have no hand to guard your grade 3 turn, right? So, yep, your opponent no guards, you check, cool, PG, no worries. Let's just say your opponent hits a damage trigger, and then you attack with Parry Stag. Parry Stag would then copy the Rolling Clutch Hold. So Rolling Clutch Hold, the requirement's 50 plus skill. So in this case, the skill is 60, so that gets the +5. And then the finishing attack is pinching, which it is, so it gains +10. Ridiculous, right? 20k, hits over defensive, and your opponent can't do anything about it, right? If they didn't hit the defensive, this is a no guard, right? Or 15k shield. If you had a Burrow Mushroom and created a token, that's 25, that's immediately a no guard, right? So that's why it's really important to kind of roll for your Burrow Mushroom, which is maybe why you would emphasize more on Burrow Mushroom than Diantha. So there is merit for, I guess, cutting some of the Zorga orders and then maxing out on the Burrow Mushrooms as well. Cool. So that's that. And let's just say, you know, your opponent is, you know, attacking your rear guard and then swing twice into Vanguard, draw 1, which is pretty good. Your opponent's, you know, pretty fat, so let's say they go again. Ooh, pretty lucky, draw 1 again. All right, double Burrow Mushrooms, pretty good. But I think now we're getting to a point where your opponent's at like 2 damage. It's pretty good for them, right? Super Machine Gun is actually pretty good here because you're gonna get 1 out, and you don't have a Japanese Beetle. So there might be a time where you just ditch the Super Tornado Throw and then, I guess, create a column with Burrow Mushroom and then like double boosters on the back. But you actually don't have very much going on your rear guard, which might be a problem, right? So what kind of happens here, I guess we'll just ditch the grade 1, unfortunately. We ride the grade 3 Burrow Mushroom. Burrow Mushroom will create 2 tokens. And then let's just say, you know, with Burrow Mushroom again, probably should do that. Put into Soul, create 2 tokens. Now you could push this up. We don't really have another rearguard to kind of attack with. This is probably where Mushiking is the worst. It could be especially if you don't have any attacking units. If I got like one Japanese Beetle, I'd be like pretty good. CB3 is like where I want to be because I'll have a drive check on the rear guard, and then obviously twin drive on the Vanguard, and then a single drive as well. Cool. So because this is a little bit awkward, so what we'll do, that on grade 2, so attack for 10 first, and then just dump all the triggers on the plant. Alternatively, you could keep that standing, but I think attacking with the 10k while your opponent's 10k, it means that I make the most out of my opportunity. So attack that first, Stag Beetle attacks. This will then rest machine gun punches. So the skill 20 or greater, it is fulfilled by Tyrannus. And then the finishing attack is hitting, so this gains plus 10k. And that is until the end of the turn. So which means that when it resets, it attacks with 23 as well. So in this case, you actually might want to just attack 23 unboosted, because 28 is actually a really annoying number, right? So twin drive, so first check, Barrow, second check, crit. Crit's pretty good, especially in the early game. Your opponent hasn't farmed up yet, so their hand might actually be pretty low. So let's just say they're no guarded. So maybe you just put it onto the Vanguard and force a PG, because this 5k is like kind of weak, and your opponent's just gonna, well, you're just gonna attack into a rear guard, maybe like they intercepted or something. So yeah, I'll just put it all into the Vanguard. Your opponent takes 2, they're on 4 damage, right? And then using the machine gun punches, so combos 1, it restands, -2 drive, and then I'm gonna ditch this. So by ditching this, it gains +1 drive. So that means it swings for 1 drive now. So this is 38 with a crit, pretty annoying. 1 drive, you check 1 drive, heal, pretty good. And then let's just say this attacks into the other rear guard, call it a day, right? So this is probably where it's a little bit fragile. So let's just say your opponent's a 5 attack deck, pretty big numbers. You have 2 nulls, so you can guard 1, 2, 3 attacks. So you're probably gonna take 2. So let's just take 2, crit's pretty good. Japanese Beetle really wanted that, which is unfortunate. And let's just say, you know, you got 43, and then you maybe go this, ditching the Burrow. And then this is where it's annoying, because I do want the Persona Ride, but I also want the machine gun punches. If I do top deck a Zorgo order, then it's alright. But Zorgo order means that I still have to get another order to discard. So unfortunately, it is what it is, and we have to discard one of these. And I think Persona Ride is way more impactful, because sure, I'll attack for 2 drives and no drives, I'll be pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna discard that, cool. So let's stand and draw. So this is our 4th turn, we're gonna go into the Persona Ride. So let's Persona Ride, draw 1. Yeah, this is like probably the worst simulation, I think, for Mushiking, but you know, we'll work with it, right? So we're gonna go here, this battle phase. So this is 33, because we're gonna be attacking with the machine gun punches, 33. First check, draw. I guess we'll put it on here, draw 1. Second check, super throwing, which is not the order that we want. So we canvas 1 and we restand. Unfortunately, we can't ditch the machine gun punches because we PG'd it away. This is 38 with 0 drives, 20, and then 30. So that's pretty much how the deck kind of simulates. Obviously, it's better once you actually find your Mushi rear guards. And if your hand is kind of clogged, then you want to prioritize certain cards to be, you know, protected, I guess, or have a way to follow up. And I think this is where Diantha would have been good, because Diantha would have revived my parry stag, and that would have made it so that my numbers were a bit more formidable than chucking, you know, a bunch of planet tokens. So yeah, that is pretty much the Mushiking deck. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this is informational to you guys. It is a new deck that obviously all of us are kind of new into. So this is kind of a guide on how to kind of play it, how to build it, and the little flexible ways to kind of put in alternatives to the deck as well. If you guys like this video, pop a like, comment down below what you guys think of this deck. Have you guys played Mushiking? I've had a blast playing it, and I think this deck is pretty sick. It's probably one of my favorite decks at the moment, and it's cheap. It is a very cheap deck to get, and you know, cheap always sits well with me. So yeah, very, very cool deck. If you guys haven't already, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.